Now the head consists of two important ideas. One, we want to know the form, and two, we want to know the proportion. And so now, in order to get into this, we'll learn to draw both together. We'll draw the form and show what it is. The human head first is given as an ovoid shape like this. It has this characteristic, longer than it is wide. Learn to do it with a big swinging stroke of the arm. The proportion is 3 to 2, 2 parts wide, 3 parts long. You can see the egg shape. And what we're going to do now, instead of staying with the midline, notice how the midline is put down. Take it with a cut, almost like a scalpel. It's dividing now into 2 parts. We're going to put down the horizontal line going across the middle. The vertical line is your midline from a front view. That's where it divides. The eye on one side, eye on the other, the nose is split in half, the mouth, and so on. We're going to turn the head now, and let me show you how that's done. We will take a turn saying this is the midline now. And if I were to show you the possibility of it, it would look like this, would look like that. We'd begin to feel the brow appearing here, the cheekbone, and the narrowing down of the facial mask. When that head turns, we want to see that the back of the head is missing. And let me explain simply how that's done. You take the measure of the blue line to the red, this amount, which is the turning of that mask from a front view going off right, add the same amount close to it to the back. This to this will tell you that if you connect the cranial mass, the cranial curve, carried down to where you would understand is the bottom of the nose, we begin now to hold the same egg shape on the left as the jawline. Add on it the characteristic box of the chin. You will see that now we have a turned head. The head comes out here on the right side as a contour. We begin to feel a visor effect of the brow. Notice the brow standing out. The cranial mass is round at the top, curved. Curve may go back. It'll flatten at the side of the temple. Let's put a tone down here. Now the visor will appear like this, showing a notch backward on the flat part of the temple. Mid-region, under the visor, under the brow, the ridge that stands out. We're going to have a wedge, a characteristic wedge of the nose. The part here, given like that, as the nose pinches in, one may see this, down to the nose base. This part is half of the lower element, the lower part of the facial mask, from the base to the chin, and from the base to the bridge of the nose. And now from the base of the nose down to the chin, the mound of the chin, we're going to have a barrel, which will show that this is the characteristic double form of the dentures of the mouth. Here we'll put a tone at the side, carried under, made round at the right, and feel that you have now a form that is extended in space. Underneath the chin box, really a chin box, somewhat squarish, you'll see, locking up on the side with the mouth barrel, we have now the lower part of this angular facial mask. Now I want you to note on the cranium, closing into the brow ridge, we have the other side coming down, making the notch equal as a form. Then the break-in from the under part of the visor. Note how we pick up on the cheekbone, one equal to the other, symmetrical here, symmetrical there. Note the mouth barrel here on either side. Look at 2 sides now, draw carefully, and hold the mound and the box of the chin together, and then draw upwards and see how it is that you have the facial structure, one side and the other tight, coming together at a kind of V shape. Here is the characteristic of the eye drawn across. We need the midline, and now note that the eye is an almond shape. Notice an almond or a nimbus. We have this characteristic appearance. The eye is not fully an almond in the sense that the curves are equal. The inner curve, and let me emphasize it with another chalk, the inner curve is high. You notice that the curve is here, inward toward the corner of the eye. And the bottom curve is downward and further out toward the outside of the eye. The points marked will show that if you carry a line through like this, you're getting the axis of the two curves. That will show also, very likely here, where we have the high point here, the low point there, and the axis appearing like this in the far side. Note again, we're carrying the correction through on a horizontal plane from corner to corner, so we know that the eyes don't sag, the eyes are equal. Is this clear? Note further the lower lid. The lower lid has the basis of a thickening. The upper lid is a tight line to the line of the eye. Notice how there's a slight overlap of the eye coming into the bridge of the nose and the corner of the eye like this. Now marking out the accent of the lower lid with the lower lid line clearly showing. The bulge of that lower lid is important because the volume of the eyeball is usually on the bottom of the eye rather than at the top. The eye pupil given here is set in the middle of the eye, and if we carry that down, carry the pupil of the eye down, note that this will be a position for the terminus of the mouth. The corner of the eye on the inside is carried downward to the edge of the nose. And you will see at this point we're going to make the swing of the nostril, the curve of that nostril arch, the opening of the nasal passage, and then the wing of the nose, held at the top just above that arc, gives us the width of the nose. That eye never encroaches any further in except from the point where the wing of the nose ends. Next problem here is the arch of the brow. The arch of the brow is clearly like the visor I told you about, and it does make the form complete when it provides a protection to the eye. Here at the top, we have the big brow ridge. As it dips, it goes and swells to the outside, off on our right, and then the great cranial mass intrudes, and we have the form now complete. Let's look now at the characteristic forms of the cheekbone. You will see that the socket is necessary for the cheekbone. This socket descends mid-distance in the nose. Notice how it rides up, carries across, carries down, rides down. It has a curve going outward. I'll emphasize this with a blue color like that, and the blue color in here. And then, of course, we'll see how the socket completes itself on two sides. Lower down, we get the cheekbone. We call that the zygomatic bone. Notice how the bulge goes no further down than the base of the nose. The nose may be seen as compressed in the bridge. Notice the arcing up of the nasal bone, cutting across the two parts of the central region of the ball of the nose. Notice the flare, slight flare coming out. The upper part is like a lozenge. The ball can be seen to have a four-part sequence, something like a trapezoidal figure. On two sides, the flare begins. Notice the underplane of that flare. The opening of the nostril becomes the wing. On the other side, that flare may be seen in a highly tangential position. On the far outside, foreshortened element develops slightly depressed, but with a little flaring up of a bulbous shape, which is the nasal passage. You may see now how the wing of the nostril is held in check against that, and we have the form of the nose. Now the lips can be seen as an extended M shape. Notice the characteristic of the M. The form is more or less curved over in a continuous sequence of a turn. If I do it with one stroke, you'll see that it does carry over. Inside that M shape, the V shape, we have a secondary echo of that. And that echo is then seen as a slight evolution of a little tip, a little form called the tubercle. Each one of the lips flares a little bit, like a wave-like motion, swings up on either side. And at the corner, a tightened node, an area which seems to be a suture, seems to be a closure of the mouth, like a welt. From underneath, on the lesser curve of the lip, below the upper is a curve in reverse. And that curve, once we establish it, has a slight lift in the center, which gives us a modified W shape. So the M is dominating on the top lip, and the W is subordinate on the bottom lip. If we bend back the form by putting in a tone, notice how the form now tends to bend away against the mouth barrel. The lip is set in against the depressed region. The depressed region here moves upward against the barrel of the mouth to the sides, left and right. If you follow the curve is here, carried through, and we can read the mouth barrel like this with a node overlap on the corner of the mouth, and now the curve continuing on the base. We suddenly read the emergence of the frontal form of the chin box, or the chin mound. Take the frontal element from the cue of the nostril, and let's go ahead and play this upward. Notice how this appears. Let me indicate the ear at this point. If we were to look at the outside eye coming up here on a line, continual line, we'll get the eyebrow and the development of the arch of the eyebrow at the edge of the eye. The other side does the same thing like this. You will see the eyebrows coming in. Now the ear on our outside left is placed on the line taken from the arch of the eyebrow up, out to the side, and then the base of the nose again out to the side at the edge of the jaw plane. We'll put a tip in here of about 12 degrees off the vertical, and then a large C shape. You'll notice that as it comes down, it begins to stop an attachment just on the line of the corner of the eye. At this point, what it does, it wheels in, presents a curved thickness, and then a bowl emerges, and the bowl is the middle third. The first third is the curve, the middle third is the bowl, and the final third is the lobe. As we come down on the inside, picking that bowl curve, we find a pinch high up, and the arch of the ear meets it, and the ear begins to take shape. Let's place the hairline now, since we have the top of the head unformed. We're going to move up 2/3 of the distance from the bridge of the nose to the top of the head, the crown. We'll meet the curve of the forehead on one side and the curve on the other side. Notice how symmetrical it is. Arc down into the temporal depression, come in for the top of the brow ridge, come back in here for the sideburn, the hair bearing back. The sideburn, or an extended amount of hair, will let you feel that the hair is in place, and then now the hair may be pushed backward, or it may be combed with a forward bulge, or it may have any other kind of coif you like, but this is the beginning of the hairline and the various distinctions given to the way the hair is built and combed. By applying daily practice to the approach that has been demonstrated here, and by sketching people around you, your drawing skills will develop immeasurably.